Thanks for watching The Last Page, where we read books by local authors and then get to discuss them with the author. Today's book is The X Project by Jennifer Aline. I'm Oran Spitzer. For the discussion, I'm here with Andy Velez, our News 8 producer, and of course, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, for those who haven't read it yet, what is The X Project about?
The X Project. So The X Project is about two coworkers at a dating app, and the dating app is called My Cup of Joe. It's kind of coffee focused, and they decide to revisit past relationships for different reasons, one for love, one for revenge. It's a small town, things happen and paths cross, and that's kind of the spiel when it comes to The X Project.
And what was the thing that sparked the idea for the book?
Well, it wasn't all my exes. A lot of people think that I just grabbed all my exes and put them in a book. Some were inspired by them, but it's not, not all of them. Mm-hmm. I think it was just, I was looking for a story that had 20-somethings involved, that friendship was a big part of, and the idea of just these two opposites came in, and I liked the relatability of it, as anybody reading can relate to at least one of the characters or both. So just when I was brainstorming the idea, it just kind of fell into place and it worked out.
Yeah, so the novel also plays a lot with the idea of like how past relationships kind of form who we are later on in life. What do you think readers take away mostly from that theme?
Just like you said, I think that every relationship you have does kind of help you grow, even if it feels like you're taking steps back. You're still learning through each of those relationships, no matter who you're with. And I think that the characters in the book learn that along the way, even though they have their moments where they may not feel that way. But the growth is a big part of it. Yeah.
And was the idea, kind of, you touched on this, that it was somewhat on personal experience, but was a lot of it observation, pure imagination? Where did those ideas come from?
A lot of it's just from my head. There's a couple exes in there that definitely were inspired by some exes in the past, but most of them I just thought up a very stereotypical person or ex that maybe somebody else might have had. Some of the scenes might have been also inspired by experiences people have talked about that I kind of made into my own, but it's really all just very fictional, and the story is definitely just from my head and not fully from my life.
And obviously there's spicy romance, but there's also a focus on friendship. Why was it important for you to have that focus versus only going romance?
I really like how in my books the points of view aren't what the typical romance story structure is. I wanted to veer away kind of from that typical structure, and that the two main characters of each book are either coworkers or they're friends or they're sisters, and each of those characters has its own love story. I just thought it was a unique element to bring to the readership. And I think friendship, everybody has at least one friend, and I think they can relate to how important that impact is. And honestly, I didn't think that when I went into writing this that the friendship element was going to be that big. And it just kind of grew as I wrote it, and I was like, oh wow, that's the end of this book is really going to be like friendship is a main theme in there. So it kind of wrote itself as I continued to write it in a way.
Okay, and then I kind of got the feeling that a lot of it was like, like you said, one goes off to like get revenge, the other kind of goes off to try and find love again, but it also is giving like a sense of closure to these characters. I wanted to ask, how did like writing this book change the point of view, or if it stayed the same for you? Like, what do you define closure as, and did that ever change while you were writing the book?
That's a very good question. I'm really not sure. I think maybe the book taught me some things about my past relationships that I could see a little clearly as I was writing these characters going through these crazy situations. I think closure for relationships is different for everybody, and each of these characters experienced it in their own way. In regard to me, I think that my sense of closure with a relationship isn't the same as either of theirs. So everybody's is unique. But yeah, I would say that that's a hard question. That was a good one.
My other question, so I found myself identifying, I think, a little bit more with Fern than Emmy. Is there one of them that you sided with a little bit more? And like when it comes to their breakups, like which side of their breakup you feel like you were involved with more a little bit?
You're asking to choose between children.
I know. I love this question just because everyone's always like, oh, which one are you? Which one? Which character are you? And I say, I think I'm both of them. That's really kind of a big part of it is I wanted people to see themselves in each of the characters in a way. I think Fern's quirkiness is very similar to mine. Like I'll trip over my own feet and I'll like say the wrong thing. So her personality in a way is very similar to mine. And Emmy, a lot of Emmy, I am not. Her hair, I am. Like she had curls, but I really liked creating just this opposite character who's very blunt, who's just tells you how it is, because that's not me. So it was interesting to explore that. It's me in a way, but not really.
Well, that being said, which character was the most then challenging to write? Somebody more similar to you or somebody more different?
Challenging.
Could also be one of the men.
I know, that's what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking there was one character named Davis in there that is inspired from a relationship I had in like 8th grade. And it was like first love, like really felt for this person. So it was inspired a little bit from him. So I think trying to make it so it wasn't fully based on my experience, which it couldn't be, it was middle school. But, but I think that was just a tricky one also to write because of what happens in that situation with them. So yeah, I think he was a fun one, difficult one to write in a way.
Davis is the one that also had feelings for like who used to be her best friend. Okay. So was that inspired more like by a real life event, or was that a little bit more like a?
We're just trying to get the juice.
I love it.
I love the juice here.
So that is somewhat, there is, back in middle school, there is some truth in regard to that, that my middle school person ended up marrying one of my friends, and they dated from 8th grade on until forever, and I kind of introduced them. So in a way, I kind of thought it would be fun to wiggle some of that in there in a way. It's not exactly that situation, but if you know that from my past, you can see how it is inspired in a way, and I just kind of threw it in there. So, yeah.
Was there a conscious effort to kind of balance vulnerability, humor, and romance, or did you kind of let things flow and let the pieces fall where they may?
In the X project, romance is a big part of it, obviously, because of the themes in the story. But unlike my other books, romance was not the top focus, I would say. But friendship was definitely one that I wanted to focus on as I wrote it. As I got to like the middle of the book, I was like, all right, this is one that I'm gonna have to go fill in and add more, details to. I would say humor, I think it's just my quirky humor that I throw in there. Maybe it's millennial humor, I don't know. That just happens. The characters are just that way, I guess. So some of it was, it just happened, and others I did have to kind of think a little bit about.
Okay. And was there like a moment where you were writing that, like a specific character, maybe a scene that just totally like took over your book and made it go like in a completely different direction?
There was a point near the end when there's a little twist, and I didn't see that twist coming at all when I was writing it, which that kind of surprised me. I was like, oh wow, that makes sense that would happen. So that was a part I would say surprised me. I don't want to say what the twist is.
Okay, understood.
But that was a part that I would say definitely surprised me and kind of made me step back and have to look at some other elements in the book, kind of do my editing and whatnot. So that definitely was a part that made me think.
Is there a character that you'd most want to be friends with? You're like, I did a really good job with this. You should be me. You should be my friend.
I like Emmy a lot. I think I would definitely want to be friends with her. I feel like we all need an Emmy, just someone who tells it how it is. Like she's funny, monotone, just that's who she is. I think there's a character named Chase in the book that I really, really liked. And if I were to write a sequel for this, he would definitely be a main character, which I don't know if I ever will. Maybe I'll do extra scenes in my newsletter or something. But I really enjoyed him. I just felt like he was a genuine character that I would be friends with. Or
he was like Mr. Nice Guy, but like the sweetie pie.
Yeah. Yes, we all want that cubicle neighbor in our lives.
Reminds me of George.
Let's learn a little bit more about you. Kind of what's your writing process like?
My writing process, I'm very much, they like to say plotter or pantser. And plotter means you outline everything to a T, you know exactly what's gonna happen in each chapter. Pantser's like, I'm just gonna do it and see what happens. And I kind of say I'm in the middle of that. I do like to make a nice outline and outline the characters, their personalities, their age, just so I don't mess any of that up. And I do make an outline for my chapters just so I have an idea of what's in each in case I do have to go back and make some changes. So I do like for the X project, I think the outline was like 30 pages long. Wow. So there was a lot in there just so I could remember. So I usually, my writing process is kind of looked not down upon, but it's one that some people say, oh, you probably shouldn't do it that way, and that I write the book, and then I stop. I'll get like to chapter 3. I'll stop, reread it, make edits. Then I'll write more. I'll stop, go back to the beginning again, and reread. And so I'm always editing as I go.
Okay.
And in the writer world, sometimes people are like, no, just write it. Just write it, get it all done, and then go back and edit. And I'm like, I can't do that. I did that. I did that for the Naked Book Club because I tried it out. I just wrote it. And my anxiety was spiraling. So I know that I am just, when I write, I have to stop, go back, reread. And so when I get to the end of the book, it's kind of like a draft 2. So it's not that first skeleton. Yeah. It has something to it.
No, I really appreciate you talking kind of about that, a process that's a bit more logistical, because I feel like people think that you just go in and you start writing and you're super creative and things flow. So when you talk about kind of a process to getting a book done, I feel like it makes those people who want to be, writers in the future kind of be like, okay, so we can do this.
Yes.
There's a framework, so to speak, for it.
I've never been like a super outline this kind of person and then okay, this is what I'm going to talk about in this section and this is what I'm going to talk about in this section. But I always found myself thinking about it ahead of time. I was never like a write it down or anything. And I do find myself but I do I'll start writing and then I'll be like halfway through something and I'm like, okay, wait, I need to double check that this is accurate.
Yes.
And then I'll go back and I'll keep going back and forth. So I understand that. That sentiment.
Yeah.
But even with that, was there a part of the book that was, I guess, difficult to write?
The X project just kind of flowed. It was my first baby, my first one that came out under Book and Brew Creative. And it just, like I said, it kind of wrote itself, which is so weird to say. Some people don't understand that saying. I don't think I understand that saying. But the characters just kind of grew, and I outlined the X's a little bit, like how a couple of them were inspired by my real life. But some of them it just happened as it went.
Was there anything specific that triggered inspiration for this book, or was it something that you'd always thought about wanting to write?
I think I just liked, around that time when I was writing, because I've written other books before the X Project that just never got published or just there. I liked writing about 20-somethings, just living the 20-something life, and wanted something relatable to those who are in their 20s or 30s or 40s, however old you are that you want to read it. I just think it's fascinating, the post-college years when you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want. So that was probably in my mind quite a bit when writing it.
And in the time of Sex and the City and everything, or were you?
I loved Sex and the City. Loved it. And Girls, I really liked the show Girls as well. Yes.
Yes, definitely the vibes are there.
It was definitely giving a little bit of now that you mention it, it makes a lot more sense.
I love that.
And as I hear you speak, that kind of sounds like your general, inspired the world you live in, so to speak.
Yes.
Looking back now, is there anything that you would approach differently if you were writing the book again?
I wouldn't change my writing process. I think I still like that process. I wouldn't use the word practically as much. I use that word a lot.
Oh, of the things that bother creative people, that's not one I would have guessed.
There's a few. There's practically, there's slightly, there's a little bit. I use those phrases quite a bit in the X Project specifically. I caught myself before I started writing my other books, but I caught myself in the X Project being like, I do use these phrases quite a bit. Hopefully, hopefully not everybody else catches on to that. But now if you read the book, you might catch on to that. But I would definitely have changed like those words, but it's hard to see that when you're writing it.
Yeah.
You don't really think about it, you just go for it.
Right.
I wouldn't. I really enjoyed the process. It was the first book that I've published, so it was just all learning experience and figuring it out and, you know, trial and error. So I would say, you know, there's not much I would really change except for those words.
I would say, before I get to the next question, what made you want to publish the X Project as like your first book?
It started kind of with my friend and I, with Book and Brew Creative. We created a small press that we publish our books out of, where all the books are either, well, they have the themes of romance and coffee in some way. So we started that, and at the time I had written the X Project. So when we came up with this idea, I was like, well, the X Project is romance and coffee. That's pretty much the entire story, not really, but sort of. So since I'd already written it, I just decided to go back, do all my edits, just keep going through it and make sure it's clean, get an editor, you know, do the cover design, do all the part of the process and learn it as we went. So I think just because it was finished and I liked the story a lot, I was like, let's make this the debut. Let's see what happens.
And now that, let's say we're at the end of the book, what happens next for these characters? Do you imagine something happening afterwards for them? What does that kind of look like?
What happens next, some of them pop up in the Naked Book Club.
Okay.
So, and they also pop up in the third book that is coming out later this year. So there is crossover in my books, even though they're standalone. So you can see how where some of them go in a way. I would say in my newsletter, I want to make extra scenes to throw out there for people. Like after, there's a gala at the end of the book, and after the gala, there's a couple characters I would love to make a scene for. So there's definitely room for growth with the characters moving forward.
If this were to be adapted into a movie, one, would you even want that? And then two, who would you want to play the main characters?
Oh my gosh. People have asked me that before, and I'm so bad at answering that question. I don't think I have an answer. It would be fun. I mean, of course, I think most writers just imagine their books becoming a show or a movie. That's just part of the process, I guess. Of course, I would love it. I don't know who would play the main characters, though. I have thought about it, and I have no clue. So if anybody has ideas, throw them at me.
And then are you very, I guess possessive would be the word? Like, are you letting somebody else write the screenplay? Or are you like, I'm part of that process?
I would definitely have to be part of that process. I don't want them to change the ending. I wouldn't want them to change the characters around. So I would be very much part of it. There's a show that just recently came out that's based on some romance books that the world is right now very obsessed with, and I am as well. And they did a really good job sticking mimic what's in the show. So it is possible to make the book and the show or the movie very similar. So I would hope it would stay that way.
And then for those young writers who are watching you in awe and are saying, wow, she really did it, what is your advice to them?
As cliche as it is, just don't stop. Just keep on doing what you love, even if it doesn't fit into a certain genre, because my book is kind of women's fiction and romance meshed together. You know, don't change how you write or what you write just because maybe the big name publishers want that. If you love something, you're able to make it come to life your way and yourself. There's definitely options now, more options now when it comes to publishing. So if anybody is interested in that, just keep writing. Just keep on getting those stories out there, and don't let imposter syndrome get in your head. I know what that's like. It's really hard, but try your best to just avoid that imposter syndrome and just keep on going.
And if you're having difficulty starting, how do you get going?
It's a great question. Sometimes it's fun for me just to go either on Pinterest, look at pictures of, themes that maybe are interesting to me. For example, maybe there's a character who has red hair and bangs, and I would look some people up and I'd be like, oh, that might be a good character. I also am a big coffee shop person, if you can't tell, and I find a lot of inspiration at coffee shops. So just going and reading at a coffee shop might bring some creative juices out. I think it is hard to kind of pinpoint what gets you started, but sometimes a good TV show, a good book that you read, some ideas might come from those. So yeah, go read a good book at a coffee shop and see if anything happens.
Wanted to go back a little bit. We talked about advice you'd give people who are starting out, who are interested in writing. How did you start?
Again, it's pretty cliche, but I've been writing since my daughters are 8. I was writing at their age as well. I would be that kid in 3rd grade. I remember going to my 3rd grade teacher and asking her to staple paper together so at playtime I could write. And she was like, yes, but don't do this every day. You got to socialize too. Got to make some friends here, play with your friends. So I have just been writing stories since I was a kid. I have a bunch of them still at my house, and it just kind of kept growing. And in high school I got more serious about it, and that I started looking into publishing options. I learned more about the industry, learned about traditional publishing and indie publishing. So it kind of just grew as I grew as well. And yeah, I would say that it all started when I was younger, and I don't know how, it just did.
Do you remember the first thing you ever wrote?
The first thing. I don't remember the first thing, but I do.
The first memorable one.
The first memorable one. I do remember there was a book, I had a composition, a marble composition notebook, and I filled that entire thing plus another one. It was just this fantasy story about these creatures who live in this world that's in my backyard. And it's just I think Harry Potter must have been around during that, because it was definitely inspired probably by some of Harry Potter. Just very fantasy based, and I filled I remember it had something to do with a hill. The title was something hill, I don't know. I do remember that. But I filled 2 of those books up. I wish I could find them. It was all pencil, so it might be faded.
Do you still write by hand, or do you usually type?
Oh no, I type. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I used to do that. But once I found, Microsoft Word and floppy disks back in the day, which I look at those and I get so angry, because you can get to page 80 and then it just disappears on floppy disks.
No.
So I lost so many stories when I was a teenager. It's very sad. But yeah, I would say that.
I'm actually always really curious about kind of the pitching process. When you're pitching to publishers, what do you think they are looking for, and kind of what does that look like?
Well, I had started thinking about the traditional route first. I was thinking, of course, I think as a naive 18-year-old, oh, I want to get into Penguin, Random House. I want to get into these big name publishers. I want my books to be, in Barnes & Noble and be the first one you see when you walk in there. Of course, I think that's just a thought a lot of people have. And as I learned, and I did pitch to agents, you have to get a literary agent, and then the literary agent gets with one of the publishing houses and they edit the entire time, and then maybe 2 years later your book comes out. So it's a very long process. But when it comes to pitching, they definitely are looking for you to fit into a genre.
Okay.
And that was one thing that was really hard for me, is I would talk to agents and get to a pretty far part in the process, and they were saying, well, we don't know where to put you on a shelf. So I decided to make my own shelf, and we made our own small press. So I think they're definitely looking for a specific genre if you're going traditional.
Are people able to pitch to you then?
Well, we're not really taking people for our small press right now. Right now it's Rachel Kay, my co-founder, and then Harriet Banter. She lives in Wales.
Oh, okay.
And right now it's just the 3 of us. And in the future, the thing with our small press is it's more like a co-op. We're not publishing other people. We can share editors, we can share cover designers, we can, and sometimes going into that as a group gets some financial. It's good financially. So we're kind of just working as a little club, doing it together, supporting each other. And I mean, if people want to write about coffee and romance, who knows? In the future, if they want to join, they can.
Was that a game changer for you in your career?
It's been, the past year and a half, it's been just a good experience to have. It's been nice to have my books out there. It's been great making these connections with the community and getting to know a lot of local indie bookstores. Of course, it's been nice to see my book at Barnes & Noble. There's a couple Barnes & Nobles in Buffalo that it's at, actually in Rochester as well. So it's been nice to see all this work that I've done throughout the years kind of coming to life. So I would say it's made me definitely want to just keep on doing it this way. I didn't expect indie publishing to be the route I took, but now that we made our own brand and we follow our own rules, it's kind of great that we can kind of do it how we want to do it and make our stories about what we want to make them about and not have to worry about fitting on a shelf somewhere.
Before we get into really fun rapid fire questions for you, what is next in terms of your writing? Are you working on anything now?
I am. So I say book 3 of the Merlin Heights standalone series comes out August or September of this year. And I won't say too much, but the 2 main characters are sisters. And if anybody plays Dungeons and Dragons, it's very inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. So that's in there as well.
Interesting.
And some of the characters from both of my Merlin Heights books definitely pop up in this one, which was really fun to kind of pick some characters from the X Project and then the Naked Book Club, and they all play together. So it's fun.
Very, very cool. Okay, well, I teased it.
Yeah.
Now we have to rapid fire it up. But for you, we're playing a game called Red Flag or Green Flag.
Oh.
Okay. So as fast as you can here, second chances, romantic, green flag or red flag?
Oh, second chance, green flag.
Green flag. Still friends with all of their exes.
Probably red flag. I am.
Definitely red flag.
I am.
But I get that.
Like some of
'Cause
my
I
exes
am
I'm
too.
friends with. But probably a red flag.
Knows their attachment style.
Green flag.
Talks about their ex on a first date.
Red flag.
Checks their phone during dinner.
Oh, red flag.
Introduces you to friends early on in the relationship.
That's tricky. Gotta do it fast. Let's say green flag.
Says, I'm not really into labels. I like the voice I just did for that.
Probably a red flag.
Yeah.
Deletes the dating apps after a good first date.
Oh, that's a nice green flag.
Goes to therapy.
Oh, green flag.
Yeah.
Says, I'm just being honest when criticizing.
Ooh.
Oh. Red flag. I don't know if I like that.
Well, we had a really great time coming up with these. Thank you very much for being
Yes,
here for this
thank
discussion.
you.
We appreciate you being here. And of
Yes.
course, we love your book.
Yeah,
And we love to
thank
see
you.
what else you're working on. So we
Yes.
appreciate that. And for you guys at home, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned on News 8's social media pages for our next read.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.